So they ambushed these patrols, and they kept forcing the patrols back in. Finally, the patrols couldn't even go out from the Special Forces camp. And this happened over a period of a couple of weeks. They asked us for help. You know, we were down the river, down this mountain river about, say, 30 miles or so, something like that. And the weather was so bad, it was a monsoon season, the weather was so bad you couldn't get up to them. I tried a number of times to go up the river, and you know, the fog and the clouds were right down on it. I'd finally have to break out, you know, do a turn right in the water and follow the river back down. And anyway, to make a long story short, I hadn't been able to get up there for quite a while. But after 2 weeks, one time I went up that river, and the clouds didn't come down to the water, and I just, like a tunnel, following that river through the mountains, I was able to get up to that valley where that Special Forces camp was. And in the valley, there was a hole. There was a hole going up to about 10,000 feet, which is high enough for fighters to maneuver in. So this valley was clear. This valley was clear. So I came in and I contacted the Special Forces guys who had been just in anguish, literally talking to us on the radio, saying, "You guys got to get up there. They're pushing it. They're closing on them. We can't even get outside the patrols. We're hunkered in the bunkers. They got direct fire on us with 105 millimeter, 106 millimeter recoilless. It's hopeless. You've got to blast them out of here. We got no chance otherwise. You've got to get up here." But finally, you know, we weren't able to get up there. But finally, we were able to get up there. So at any rate, you know, I got in control of commander. Contact with the guy, and I said, "Okay, I'm at your location, and I got enough room here room to bring in fighters, but I got to know where the guys are." So he told me, he said, "You got maps?" I said, "Yeah, I got 1 to 50,000 scale maps." So he tried to tell me where they were. So I looked on the mountain ridge line where he's telling me, and I can't see anything. They're not there. Okay, I can't see. I said, "Where is that? What location is that? You know, how do you know that's the location?" He says, "Well, that's the best we can tell from here," and so on. Of course, he's down on the ground. He says, "I know where it is, but I'm not sure which ridge line it is, or you know where exactly it is." So I said, "Well, okay, then I got to come down here, and you're going to have to point it out to me because I got to know where they are, or I can't hit them." You know. So he said, "Only you can't land here. They got the strip under direct fire, and they got you'll get your plane and everything like that." He says, I got no choice. I got to get down there, or else we don't have a chance here. So I landed this little, light plane on the strip. It's a 600-foot strip, really bad new strip. And they start firing as, I'm landing and stuff like that. I roll it out, twist it around, and they send a sergeant in a Jeep out, and he does a running pickup of me, and we go back to the bunker, the main command bunker, and we get in the command bunker, and the captain who's in charge of this A-team, he points out to me on the map exactly where he believes that all these positions are, where the artillery's firing from and so on and stuff like that. And points out through a little visual thing that they had to look outside. He points out the particular ridge lines that he believed. So now because I landed there, we were under a pretty good little barrage there. They were firing on us pretty heavy. So I said, okay, now I got to get back to my plane. So the captain looks at me and he says, "You can't go out there. There's no way you can go out there." Okay? So I said, "Captain, I got to get out there." So one of the sergeants over here says, "I'll take you, sir. I'll take you." So the captain says, "Okay, Sergeant, take it." So the sergeant basically volunteered. So we get outside, we get in the Jeep, and the sergeant brings me back and drops me off as he's moving, and we got explosions going on. As we're going along, I get in the plane and I'm moving right away, and I get back to the thing and I take off, and as I take off, I don't have a long enough strip to take off, but it's right on the edge of a cliff. So as I go off the end, I drop down on the cliff, get flying speed, come up and start circling around, come back up. Now I'm up high. I call for a scramble to my control of all available fighter aircraft, all available F-100s, to come in here with bombs and strafe and rockets. That I've got, an excellent target, and we've got troops under siege and so on and so forth. So the first fighters come in. I tell them to let down at 342 degrees off the Pleiku Takan at 40 miles. Let down, and I'll pick them up. And down through the clouds, I see this first flight of 4 F-100s coming. Meanwhile, because the guys showed me where everything is, I see all the foxholes and everything. This North Vietnamese unit, you know, is are new guys or rookies or something, but they didn't camouflage their foxholes very well. So I could see their lines. I could see all their lines, okay? So they got these 50 caliber machine guns and, you know, artillery pieces and all that kind of stuff. So I bring down the F-100s. I mark the first the first two 50 calibers. They're always a pain in the neck, the heavy machine guns. I mark them, and the second bomb, I'm controlling the bomb. I say, you know, they can't see, the fighters can't see this stuff. You got to tell them on the radio, you know, where to drop from the previous mark or the previous bomb. So the second bomb is right between these two 50 caliber nests, and I figured, well, I got down. But the very next fighter down gets hit, okay, by those 50 calibers. So I said, well, screw that. You know, we're just not going to play games here. So let's go straight. In other words, 20 millimeter cannon. We got 1,000 rounds of 20 millimeter cannon fire in each, which are exploding warheads in each F-100. I tell them, listen, we're going to just start raking these foxhole lines, you know, these enemy lines. We're going to start raking them with 20 millimeter back and forth. Meanwhile, another couple of flights of F-100s come down. I pick them up. I got them in orbit. And I said, just watch what we're doing here. You're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to be hitting the same target over and over again. So to make a long story short, in the next 2.5 hours, 3 hours, I put in 50 fighters on these communication lines. You know, just these F-100s, they have 4 1,500 round per minute rate of fire cannons. They fire 6,000 rounds a minute. That's 100 rounds a second. As they're coming in, they're firing that kind of explosive warheads right down these trench lines. Trench line after trench line after trench line, over and over and over again. After a period of, you know, half an hour, there's nobody firing back. And we just keep going and going and going and going. My commander relieves me. I show him exactly where everything is. He puts in another 50 fighters like that. And the entire unit breaks off. Our intelligence received a communication from them. They went back across the border into Laos. The communication to North Vietnam was that they had to return to North Vietnam, that they no longer existed as a fighting unit. They'd lost all their officers, all their NCOs, and they just had a few men left. The Special Forces team went up and patrolled in the area where these ridge lines were. They said they found mass grave after mass grave. They had arms and legs all over the trees, all over the ground. It was just chaos. You know, we really wiped out probably, you know, 300, 400, 500 guys out of the 600 men in the unit. So anyway, that was the first medal. The second medal was a similar thing like that. It was a little village that got under attack. But I don't think you guys are having to go home, don't you? Have to go home at 8:30 type of thing.
Tell one more story. Go ahead. Go tell one more story.
Okay. The other time that happened, we just got to Docto. We're in a Special Forces camp. One of these patrols, remember I told you the patrols watched the trails? One of these patrols was by this village. There was one village left in this valley. That's why we were brought up here. The North Vietnamese had overrun and killed all the villagers in about 20 or 30 villages in this valley. There was just one village left on this little road, river crossing. And you know, then there was a Special Forces camp at Docto, and that's where the battalion was. And just like the second or third night we were up there, this little village, it was still alive. They had 50 men in it, and 50 men in it, about 50 women and, you know, kids and so on. 10 or 12 of the men were up on that ridge line watching that trail, which was their favorite route coming in from Laos across the border. And they called the village commander. The village chief was the commander of that patrol. He called out the North Vietnamese main force unit moving down, obviously to attack their village. And he called it out, and then they got in heavy fire. They found them, they saw them, and they killed those 12 villagers, okay? And they came on. They were about half an hour, 45 minutes away from the village. Now remember, we just got into the area, so I didn't know anybody or the players or anything like that. But I got a call from the U.S. advisor to the village stating that, you know, that call in Vietnamese by the village chief said it was a mainline unit, and obviously the only place it could be going was to wipe out this last village in this valley. So and it was only about half an hour away, whatever. So I called Pleiku to give me some gunships, gunships. You know what gunships are? These were C-123s that had side-firing miniguns out of the side doors. And I also called for a scramble of A-1 fighters. Told them to send me up, as many A-1 fighters as they could. So they took me a while to talk them into it because there was no troops in contact, there was nobody firing. But I said, there's going to be an attack on this village in just a little while here. I have to have some air power here to stop it. So they scrambled A-1s, and A-1s came up the valley, came up the river, and all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose in this little village. This village, here's a river here, and here's a road here, and there's a little triangular fort here. And there's 38 men in this little triangular fort trying to hold that village. And here's all the little houses here, the little huts here, and here's the little men in the village trying to hold this fort. And I'm watching there. I'm, a couple hundred, 200, 300, 400 feet up in the air at night. This is all at night now. This all happens at night. And I watch the explosions go off as they're throwing. I see them throw the satchel charges, and I see the explosions go off on the wall of this fort. And I see all kinds of guys here opening up on these guys with 50 calibers and AK-47s and so on these guys in this little fort. Right as that happens, and I'm right over the action, right as that happens, here come the first two A-1s, okay? And I right up the river, and I forget what their call sign was, but I said, okay, you got me? I say, right behind me, that fire you see is enemy fire. Just north of that little triangular fort, roll in, take them as you're coming, And they're pretty low, they're down a few hundred feet. And they come down and they strafe these guys right as they're attacking this little fort and just start strafing the devil out of them. Two more guys come in and they just set up a pattern. On that fight at the village, a couple fighters were shot down. Here too, a couple A-1s were shot at pretty bad. I'm in a tight pattern there at 400 or 500 feet. I'm turning constantly because I got constant 50 caliber fire that's just under my front nose. I'm constantly turning here. And they're leading me fine, and of course I'm so close to them, I'm only literally a few hundred feet away. But I'm turning so hard at 100, at full throttle, at 100 miles an hour, I'm constantly turning like this. The fire is always just underneath my nose, so that these tracers are going like that. So I had a tremendous feeling, the tremendous feeling I had was much like a feeling you get in a football game, or I did a lot of boxing and stuff like that. Much like the feeling you get. It was amazing, the feeling I had, which is that you bastards aren't going to get these guys, and I'm going to kill every one of you. I'm going to kill every one of you. Okay? That's the thoughts that were in my mind, I'm going to take your apart. I'm just going to kill you. I can't stand this. I mean, here they are killing these poor civilians, just such a slaughter they're doing, Just really, just so pathetic, these communists are so filthy. Just like these Iraqi terrorists, They're so filthy. They're such pukes. They ought to be just killed, every one of them, So anyway, it was just a tremendous feeling like that, and it lasted for a couple hours. Okay, it took a couple hour fight, put in fighter after fighter, and we wiped them out. They finally stopped trying to hit from the north. They went to the west, and we just started strafing the devil out of them from there. And we're right on the deck, and we just put unbelievable fire on them, and just knocked them for a loop. Out of the 38 guys that were in that fort, only 2 guys were wounded. They were huddled in there. They weren't putting their head up over those walls. So we really, honestly, won that little game with air power. And the next day, they left like 30 or 40 bodies there, but they had taken some prisoners, some children, prisoners, with them, and they let the children go after mostly, I guess, like hostages or something. They were shown a different way back than they come, something like that. Anyway, they let these guys come back, and they said they had over 100, bodies that they were carrying back with them and so on. Again, it was about a 400 or 500 man force, and they probably lost, a couple hundred, probably lost about half their men, in that attack. Okay? Nice talking to you. Pleasure seeing you, and thanks for inviting me tonight. God bless you. Have a good night.